Welcome to another edition of the Game Preview Podcast presented by WynnBET. Betting is a team sport. Bet together at WynnBET. I can't believe that we're like already in December here, Cynthia, but here we are. You don't get a snowy Christmas. Maybe you've done some more holiday shopping. True or false?
I've done like a fraction of it, but I'm a big cookie maker. Like I make cookies for everyone, and I have a new cookie recipe that I'm really excited about. So I feel like that's a big win, even though like the actual, I guess, got to go to get the presents. Like, oh, it's just I'm not a big mall person, or I'm not a big like shopping person.
But wait, hold on. What is your top? This might have to be a halftime conversation, but let's start with this. What is your top cookie of all time?
Well, I really have like honed in on these. Like it's a big thing. Like I'm on game day morning, we have like a bunch of like our crew, and I make a cookie inspired by each one. And then I make a big table, and they take the cookie and the table. And the best one is probably, it's filled with caramel, and it's like this brown sugar cookie that's not overly sweet, that has like a liquidy caramel center. That one's been honed pretty well over the years. But this year we got a new one. We got a new stage manager, and my new stage manager is like very zen and cool. So I have found this cookie recipe that uses rose water and pistachios. I'm stoked. It's going to be super exciting.
What was the first ingredient before pistachios?
Rose water.
What is that?
Basically, it's like rose infused water. So it makes it like cuts. I know it's going to be great.
Is so LA, it hurts.
Listen, it takes a girl from Michigan to like be super LA like that. You know, you can only be not from LA to act like this, right?
Man, usually we start with the coin toss. This is a much better way to start this podcast. And I know you're going to say tails, right? And we will continue the cookie conversation at halftime. I've decided. But instead of asking heads or tails this time, I just have a general coin toss philosophy question for you. Do your numbers suggest anything that teams should either receive or defer to the second half? Are there any numbers behind the strategy there?
There's some strategy. Now, look, people have read really far into this. And I do think that, starting the ball in the second half for a while felt like something that was a good thing for people when they were running the football more. So it was, that you got to then control sort of a narrative. There was this belief that you were controlling the clock to some degree. But honestly, a lot of that stuff now is actually not very helpful, because we pass the ball so much in this league that you're going to get the possession. It's just, is your defense, and you can't anticipate ahead of time, is my defense going to be still tired after halftime? Like, I don't know. I think some of that is a little bit overblown. Obviously, if there's weather conditions like we saw on Monday night for that Bills-Patriots game, then you want to take those into consideration for which side of the field or where you're going. But, it's that. Other than that, I know it's going to be super disappointing, but you can overanalyze the math of this a lot. You're going to get the ball back, the possession. You're going to get a possession in the second half.
Just one thing on that Bills game. I mean, that was early December. The Jets end the season in Buffalo. I'll be there. I'm a little worried about what January 9th or 10th, whatever the date is, in Orchard Park is going to look like. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
You need to get one of those Mac Jones like suits, like the
the scuba suit.
Exactly. You need to get one of those. That's be perfect for you. Like that would be great.
I think that if I went viral, I'd do it. I might do it anyway, even if I don't. I gotta protect the extremities.
That looked awful. I was there in the summer and it was like 150 degrees, and I thought that was bad. But no, thank you. Like that wind, that snow, nope. I grew up in Michigan. I'm done. I put in my time. I don't need to do it again. Done.
What is up with like central and western New York weather? Because like in Syracuse, it's snowy, it's windy, it's freezing, much like it is in Buffalo and Orchard Park where the Bills play. And then in the summer, it's disgustingly hot. Like it's two extremes. Just give me, can we find a compromise here in these areas and just have like a steady, nice temperature or weather?
The compromise is called Los Angeles. That's the one. There's no humidity. Yeah. It's like 70 something. I wore a winter coat and it was 65, like ridiculous.
That was funny. That got all right. That's how we start off. Let's just dive right into it in the first quarter here. I'm going to make the executive decision. We're going to start with this Saints offense and the Jets defense. So let's start with the Saints rushing offense against the Jets rushing defense. And this is presented by Home Field IT. because it feels like this is really the name of the game for the Jets, much like it was against the Eagles before we knew that Gardner Minshew was playing. Even before that, or even after that, should I say, you know that the Eagles had the number one rushing offense. They ran for 180 plus yards. Now the Saints come to town. Alvin Kamara hasn't been playing recently. The two tackles haven't been playing recently, and Teron Armstead and Ryan Ramczyk. Now you get Taysom Hill in the equation with a banged up finger, and he ran for 100 yards last week. So what kind of challenges will the Jets have against the Saints rushing attack with Hill and potentially Kamara and the tackles? Because we don't know if they will or will not play at the time we're recording this.
Well, look, when you look at Taysom Hill and you watch what he does well, you remember, yes, he rushed for 100 yards last game, but he also threw 4 interceptions. He threw them 2 against the I mean, if you look to see, okay, under pressure, this is kind of a fun stat, but it's not like the most predictive of anything. But he became the first quarterback in Next Gen Stats history, which, by the way, is only since 2016, but it sounds better when you say Next Gen Stats history, to have negative yards on under pressure. His -1 yards under pressure. Nobody, that's never happened before, right? So it's actually kind of fun, whatever. It doesn't mean anything. It just means that he took a sack, right? So ultimately, at the end of the day, it's not super impressive, but it's funny. But if you look to see 4 picks happened, against the blitz, he had 3 of them on downfield passes, 10 plus air yard attempts. There's ways to exploit this, one using play action. The point is you can make Taysom Hill one-dimensional. Yes, his legs will constantly be a threat, but if you force him to keep passing, they're missing a lot of passing opportunities. I mean, Michael Thomas hasn't played this entire season. I think we sometimes forget he's even on that team. So, at the end of the day, it's going to be a challenge, but Taysom Hill is the main challenge. Containing him is the main challenge, and of course, Alvin Kamara is exceptional. So he's a problem no matter who's the quarterback.
And I know you love offensive linemen. Can you talk about Teron Armstead, Ryan Ramczyk, how much their absence meant to the Saints team and what the addition of those two would be, whether or not Alvin Kamara plays?
Yeah, so outside zone rushing, right? A tackle, you have to set the edge there, right? And then also when you look at RPOs, the defense sort of dictates what the offense is going to do. And if you don't have enough time to figure out what's going on, you can't run that at all. So that will be less available to them. Those two, Ryan Ramczyk, Teron Armstead, there's a reason that they're so highly paid. It's a very they are worth their paychecks. So these guys are excellent. Those, you're going to see more of what we saw last game with this crazy scrambles from Taysom Hill, who is a crazy good athlete, but not great passing opportunities. And even in that run game, it's not going to be able to be designed runs. It's going to be scrambles more often.
All right. And the last thing here in the first quarter, can you take us through the Saints offense with Alvin Kamara and without Alvin Kamara and what the difference looks like there?
Well, look, you want to talk about records and milestones and things that have happened. It's Alvin Kamara this year, league wide, he holds a lot of those. Obviously, he's missed a few games. So, him, and then, bringing back Mark Ingram's really helpful to them as well, right? So, the difference, it really runs through Kamara. Those short yardage gains are really all things. He can figure out those short yardage games. Probably, I'm trying to think of someone who does it better, and you kind of can't. So, that will be those that linebacker level. It'll be interesting to see the difference if he's not there. Right? Again, we'll see what happens.
I'm always amazed when watching Alvin Kamara from afar. When you see highlights just throughout his time in the NFL, it feels like when you look at him, he's not the biggest running back, and yet people just bounce off of him, and his contact balance is through the roof. So that's something that the Jets are really going to have to focus in on if he does in fact play. Again, he practiced last week. Now the Saints are coming off that extended rest. We'll see what happens, but that was the first quarter presented by Home Field IT.
WynnBET is now live in New Jersey, and they're bringing the excitement of Wynn Las Vegas to online sports betting. Get in on all your favorite teams, players, and sports, from boosted parlays to live in-game odds on every major sport. They have what you need to win. Sign up today to receive a special offer, risk-free $1,000 sports bet. Download the WynnBET app now or visit wynnbet.com to start winning. WynnBET, an official sportsbook and gaming partner of the New York Jets. Offer subject to change. Terms and conditions at wynnbet.com. Must be 21 or older and present in New Jersey. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-270-7117.
Because I wanted to be here anyway. I wanted to be in New York anyway. I really want to play for the Jets. We turn up the biggest city in the world.
There is no more passionate,
Moving on to the second quarter here, you mentioned it earlier with Michael Thomas not playing this year at all. He will miss the 2021 season. Came out earlier this week. Deontay Harris suspended 3 games. He's the Saints' leading receiver in terms of receiving yards, and the team leader in receptions is Alvin Kamara. So let's just play hypothetical here. If Harris will not play, if Kamara cannot play as well, what kind of receiving core are we looking at? And doesn't this feed right into what the Jets want to do in limiting Taysom Hill in terms of throwing the ball to force him to be one-dimensional?
Well, first of all, we got to give Bryce Hall a little bit of love because he's had consecutive great games. I think he allowed 23 yards in coverage last week. Okay, we'll take that. That's wonderful. So that's great because kind of a strength of the Jets and the weakness of the Saints. So big advantage Jets there. But I mean, are you really in Marcus Callaway? Like this is not a good, maybe it's good for like a daily fantasy lineup if you're looking for something very inexpensive receiver, but it does make them so one-dimensional that you're going to have to figure out, okay, it is short yards. Like, you know who can figure this out? Robert Saleh. But like at the end of the day, you know, there is an escapability factor that Alvin Kamara has that makes him in that pass catching game. Really, he's very elusive. He's very good at it. I think I asked Sheldon Rankins ahead of the season, and I can't remember his exact words, but he's like, that guy can just slip out of everything. I think he said the word slip or slippery. So, and then you go watch and you see him be slip or slippery, and Sheldon Rankins would know. Former teammate.
Yeah, Sheldon Rankins would know. He was drafted by the Saints, been there, and then this is his first year not with the Saints. Sheldon Rankins did not play last week against the Philadelphia Eagles. That would be a big boost if he were able to go. You know, while we're talking about the Saints receiving core, I just want to throw out Lil Jordan Humphrey, part of the all-name team. That's a first-team All-Pro all-name.
When we were doing draft coverage, my favorite producer at the NFL Network, his name is Bill Smith, which sounds fake, but that's actually his name. And he that was like one of his like all-time favorite. And he was like, "Can we do more segments on Little Jordan Humphrey? How about Little Jordan Humphrey?" I've never seen him be so. He's usually very like stoic, and he was just very excited about that one. So I like Little Jordan Humphrey. It's fun, right? Like who doesn't like a name like Little Jordan?
Yes, I think it's fantastic. But more importantly.
Wait, do you know why he was named that?
No.
His dad, I believe it's his dad wanted him to be named Jordan after Michael Jordan. His mom like, no. And then she's like, Lil Jordan. And then that's how they came to some compromise. It was fantastic.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, fun fact.
That's a good nugget. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, what I was going to ask you was not as important as this. What I was going to say is you said Bill Smith is your favorite producer. Between us and whoever's listening or watching this, do the other producers at NFL Network know that Bill Smith is, in fact, Cynthia Frelund's favorite?
Well, he's kind of like a hybrid. So he does he's the next gen stats guy. So they kind of know there. So we have a lot of different categories of favorites, right? Like I got he's we figure out like new content. We figure out like I negotiate with him what I write every week. So like we go head to head a lot.
All right. Fair enough. That was a very good answer. I put you on the hot seat there. You handled it well.
Oh, I'm fine. I think those people who try to tell you that they don't have favorite children, they're lying. I'm not suggesting you can't change which child's your favorite over the course of even a day, but you got to have one. That we're humans.
We are human. We are. That is true. You know who might not be human is Alvin Kamara, though, because of his ability to break tackles. And as Sheldon Rankins said, slippery, whatever he said, it's true. I just want to end on this before we hit halftime here. In terms of if Alvin Kamara does play, you mentioned the short passes and the passing game. How much of a benefit is that for Taysom Hill if he's able to play? And then also, how challenging is that for the Jets defense, not only to worry about Alvin Kamara rushing the football, but having to deal with him on screens and dump passes and in the flat and everything that comes with that?
So it's literally like game changing, right? Because if you think about it, everybody and their brother knows that Alvin Kamara is good and going to be the subject of a lot of the volume of the offense. And why is he still able to continue to run roughshod over everyone? Well, it's because they mix up the alignments. If they can run the same play, but the formation ahead of the play is completely different, or they'll use motions. They'll use a lot of deception ahead of the snap to get him where he can get open. So it's a combination of, I mean, we have to kind of be like, think about it. Sean Payton's like a little mastermind. Like what is this team he's fielding this year? And they're still winning games, and they're still running, 4 interceptions. And Taysom Hill, they weren't even out of that game until like later on in the fourth quarter. So you have to give a lot of credit to the architecting of this offense to create a lot of illusions and tricks, and then obviously executing it by guys like Alvin Kamara to such a high degree that, it's still viable. Most teams couldn't lose their number 1 wide receiver for the year and even be like, that like the cap hit alone is just ridiculous. So, it's a lot to do with how Sean Payton figures out how the offense works.
It's a great point. And especially without Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara is really the linchpin of that offense. He has been playing recently. The Saints are on a 5-game losing skid, perhaps not coincidental. We'll see what happens Sunday or really throughout the week. So that brings us to halftime, where I'm going to re-bring up this cookie topic here. If you were, and this is, how would you power rank like the classic cookies between chocolate chip, oatmeal raisin, sugar, maybe snickerdoodle? If I'm missing one, I mean, you could throw it in there, but what are we talking about is the creme de la creme of the staple cookies.
So you have to have the good chocolate chip in your arsenal. That's just, to me, that is like, like they say, they judge chefs on if they can make an egg. You know what I'm saying? I judge cookie bakers on their chocolate chip cookie. And then all the other fun ones are good too. Like a oatmeal raisin's good. I feel like it's kind of, we need to like spice it up a little bit. I haven't made an oatmeal raisin cookie in a really long time. It kind of reminds me like an English muffin in the morning now. Like I get like a good, English muffin with raisins now. But, I just think cookies are like gone off the rails. Like, and I'm a part of that. But, you have to have your classic chocolate chip like deal. And then I like sugar too, mostly because I think they're pretty. Like it's less like the flavor, but like they're fun to decorate. And, it's always a good family activity to like decorate cookies. I pit my nieces against each other in cookie decorating competitions. Great.
Do you have a favorite niece?
I do. And it switches all the time. Right now it's Maya because she likes me better right now. Right. Maya's number 1 right now because the other one's like, 14 and too cool.
Oh, I got you. All right. And how old is Maya?
Works out. Maya's only 12. She's still kind of cool. It's going to switch in a minute. It'll switch,
see.
By the Super Bowl, it'll be back to Christine.
Okay. Maya and Christine really battling on and off the cookie. Well, I don't know what the analogy is. They're battling for your favorite and the favorite cookie as well. And I do agree with you. The chocolate chip is by far number 1. I love the egg analogy here. If I'm because this is how I view, if I'm judging like a burger or a pizza, I just want something simple to see how it compares before I go all crazy. Like people are like, oh, you got to try this pizza. It has all this stuff on the slice. Just give me a plain cheese slice or a pepperoni slice. Let me see how I like it. And then I'll tell you if I'm ready to take that next step. That's how I feel.
I'm with you. Because everyone can like put like a whole bunch of tricks in a cookie. You got to see if your foundations, your fundamentals need to be sound first. Then you can go off.
Let's bring it back to football. Exactly. Fundamentals and technique need to be A1 before we can start really exploring the offense or the defense or whatever, or special teams. We should talk about special teams. Next week, book it. We're talking about special teams at halftime. I have decided.
We'll do it.
Is there any more cookie topic that you'd like to discuss before moving on to the second half?
Well, I think I'm going to have to figure out how to mail some cookies cross country. So you got to try it too. I'm pretty excited about the menu is coming together. Really, I have to figure out a good Jets one too. So maybe people can tweet me which ones are some good. I loosely follow recipes. So I have to make them my own. I'm a weirdo like that. But like, so people send me ideas. We could ask the listeners could send me ideas. Ooh.
Oh, listeners could definitely send ideas. But what about if you did like some kind of sugar cookie, but it was green and white, or like had like some kind of decoration that was Jetsy?
I mean, the decoration's definitely going to be green. Is clearly my favorite color. I mean, my nails are always green. Like this is great. Like this is obviously green is no problem for me. But it's just I'm trying to think about what's the flavor because I feel like it has to be it can't be like some second-rate cookie. It has to be like something that's like ooh surprising. Like is there mint in there or something? We'll have to figure it out.
See, the way I viewed it was like New Yorkers are like they're just like salt of the earth, right? Maybe they can be a little mean. I understand. I grew up in New York, but I think New Yorkers just like the staple chocolate chip. I mean, if you want to do like maybe green and white chocolate chips, maybe that's something. I don't know how one does that, but I understand you want to get a little creative. I'll sit on it. I'll think about it. We'll poll the audience, and then
I just
we'll
feel
see what
like if I
happens next
pass
week.
off my chocolate chip cookie as something special for the Jets, everyone's going to know, because like I already have my fundamental cookie. So I'm going to try something out. I got some ideas. I've got some, because pistachios, they end up being green, you know? So I think we can be creative. We can do something here. We can do something. There's something's clicking up top here, you know?
Right. There's something there, and we will figure that out over the course of the remainder of the season.
People think betting is about what you know. It's also about who you're with. And with the WynnBET sports betting and casino app, you bet with Wynn.
Ben, look at this. Look at this. New York plus 3.5 at home. They're 44 and 22.
Greg, no New York bets?
Hey!
Hope you didn't bet on Boston.
Jack, did you bet on Boston?
I went with Greg on this one. He has a whole system. Big payout, big payout, big payout, big payout.
Ooh.
Greg.
Yes?
What is the Greg system?
I pick by color mostly.
But moving on to the third quarter now, we got to talk about this Jets offense. Let's start up front with the Jets rushing offense, because the Saints rushing defense seems to be the strength of that group when you look at it statistically. They're fifth in the NFL against the run. The Jets do not run the ball very well statistically. But then you look at what the Dallas Cowboys did last Thursday night. Tony Pollard, 7 carries, 71 yards. Now, he did have a 58-yard run. Then we're talking about CeeDee Lamb had 1 carry for 33 yards. The Cowboys as a whole ran for 146 yards on the Saints defense. So it seems like maybe there are ways to get chunk gains against the group, but what kind of challenge is this, especially without a guy like Michael Carter?
Well, you talked about something interesting there when you mentioned CeeDee Lamb. Now, remember, the two pieces of context from that last game are they were there. Some of their coaches were in COVID protocol. It was a little bit different, weird stuff. So different kind of format for how plays were being called, meaning they tried some tricks. You usually don't see CeeDee Lamb in the backfield, right? So finding new, different ways to use the current players, given all of the injuries, I think that could be something interesting here. We obviously saw Tevin Coleman be like the volume guy and the guy who was the subject of the volume of the offense. So maybe something interesting there, because there's a lot of, you know, we've seen him be useful in a lot of different types of ways in the past. So I think that you're onto something there with like, don't try to traditional run up the, you know, A gap against, you're just not going to, that's not going to work, right? Like they're really fundamentally sound in the middle, especially. So this is a good run. And Demario Davis is one of my, like, obviously Jets fans know him really well, like one of the like best humans on the planet too. So watch him against the run. It's really a thing of beauty. So run away from him, go away the other side. And I know it's more in the passing offense that this matters, but Cam Jordan may or may not play. But if there's no Cam Jordan, like outside zone rushing, like way better if you're not, because Cam is, stay away from him.
Stay away from Cam. And also we should talk about Marcus Davenport. He's a guy that's missed the past couple games with a shoulder injury. So there's a potential that Davenport and Cam Jordan, who was placed on the reserve COVID-19 list earlier this week, there's a chance both those guys could be out, which could obviously behoove the Jets. But the Jets only ran the ball 17 times last week after rushing for, I believe, north of 25 or 30 against the Texans. I understand different ball games. The Jets were playing from behind or trying to remain in the game here against the Eagles, especially in the second half. The Jets had to throw the ball a lot. They only had 3 plays in the third quarter, and we'll talk about that. But what about the commitment to the run that you saw 2 weeks ago with the Jets in Houston that didn't occur against the Eagles? You think maybe they should turn back to that? That could behoove the offense, or it doesn't really matter? It's really just about the short passes that we've talked about before.
Remember that runs, of course, short passes that approximate runs are important, but remember, time matters a lot. If the defense is on the field constantly, it's very difficult. And I understand that the game script flows that you have to throw more, and then you're playing from behind, and it becomes like it's this negative cycle that makes it worse and worse. So a commitment to the run, especially early, if you can slow the pace of the game a little bit so that it's not, 3 and out, or it's not, if it doesn't work, then you get a few extra minutes of figuring it out. Because I think what we have seen at the beginning of the game was great. Like Zach Wilson looked amazing last week, and the way that it started off was really strong. And the problem was it didn't adapt for, like, it seemed like you needed to throw more because the score got out of hand. But maybe it would have been a little bit more beneficial to commit to run a little bit more so that the defense didn't have to be on the field so often.
And, I think we should just dive right into it. Let's just go right into the fourth quarter, talk about this Jets passing offense. Zach Wilson, to your point, great in the first half. The offense only had 3 plays in the third quarter. Then you're playing from behind.
He had an over 134 passer rating in the first half. Like, that's better than, like, okay, right? Like, it started off good. No, it started off awesome. Like, that was great.
So what did you see from Zach then in the first half that maybe didn't adapt to the second half, but maybe is an encouraging sign moving forward?
Well, first of all, this is a difficult defense. Like, the Eagles defense doesn't, like, the people, I don't know what it is, but it seems like narrative wise, we only hear about Jalen Hurts. And then, of course, in this game specifically, because it switched to Gardner Minshew, what felt like at the last second, of course, that's what the storyline's going to be. And then the commitment to the run, that whatever, we talk about offense a lot more than defense, but the Eagles defense deserves some credit here because they're very strong defense. And I feel like what happened is they started off the game strong, the preparation. Usually those, the first 15 plays or first 20 plays, a scripted part of the game, that's all preparation. That's all stuff that you've done in practice all week long, which means they're having really sound, solid practices. And then what happened was their defense just was able to adapt. Wilson's a rookie. This is very difficult stuff to look at, right? Like, what are you seeing on the field, right? How are you seeing it? And then basically, then the game script became harder and harder, and it didn't turn around to be where it could become, oh, I see this now. I don't know what he's seeing. I'm just looking at it as an outsider, being like, he clearly had a command of what he was doing in the first half, right? Like, we could all see it. In the second half, I think the defense just adapted their game really, really strongly. And they're a very good defense, as defenses do. And then the game script kind of got away from the Jets.
And so then let's move this forward here. Talking about the Saints group, Marshawn Lattimore, very good player. The secondary also has Marcus Williams, who is a good player, but also known for the Minnesota Miracle. I hate to bring that up, but that's kind of what he's known for if you're a casual NFL fan. And the guy that missed Stephon Diggs and then Minnesota won. Anyway, what do you think about this group? And especially without Corey Davis now for the remainder of the year, what kind of challenge does that present?
Fire up Jamison Crowder. No, look, I think one really positive thing, I really like watching Elijah Moore. Now, I saw him at the end of the game. I'm not look like he's 100% healthy, but it is worth noting that since week 8, this guy's 34 receptions, 459 yards and 5 touchdowns. That eclipses, if you add together what Kyle Pitts and Jamar Chase have done since week 8, the more touchdowns than them combined and more receiving yards. Point being, there is a lot of bright spots here, but health is everything, right? If without Corey Davis, it becomes more difficult. Without 100% health of everyone, it's very difficult. So I'm interested to see how a guy like Jamison Crowder responds in this situation. And then we saw some tight end situation work out last week as well. So I think that could fun, make it fun. Like, why not have some fun with it?
I agree with that. And, this is exactly, I think the Jets in the offseason, remember, they signed a guy like Keelan Cole. They obviously signed Corey Davis. They drafted Elijah Moore. It's like, man, these are a lot of receivers that the Jets now have. Well, it's for reasons like this. When you get banged up in the room and then you have guys who play in their spots, but also have had successful NFL careers. Keelan Cole was not active last week. He was on the reserve COVID-19 list. Robert Saleh said he hopes to get Keelan Cole back in the mix. So I just kind of want to rewind the clock here. I know Keelan Cole hasn't had a game where he's been the guy, but what did you see from Keelan Cole maybe last year or over the course of his career that makes you believe he can step in and be a viable option for Zach Wilson? And also a guy like Denzel Mims coming back, getting his legs underneath him again after he was on the reserve COVID-19 list. What do you bank of this group in particular, and particularly Keelan Cole, that they're able to handle situations like losing Corey Davis this year as opposed to prior years where they were not in this situation?
I mean, the answer is speed for me. Like, these are quick guys with ability to get their hips in the right spot, right, in the right direction, and run in the right direction. We kind of make a lot of noise about people's their downhill speed, right, like the 40 times or whatever. But what really matters is if you're in the right direction at the time that the ball arrives, like you have a much better chance of earning extra yards after the catch. And that's a big deal. So you look like a guy like Keelan Cole, he's very speedy on the field. He gets where he needs to be. He gets open. He creates separation. That's great. So I think he's kind of an untapped potential, right? We don't know exactly how good he can be yet, but we've seen some flashes. Same thing with Mims. I mean, speed is clearly not a problem for him, right? So when it comes to those things, it's very interesting. And then I keep coming back to, like, you know, Jamison Crowder. You got to figure out the slot. The slot in the modern game this year, at least in past 5 years, at least slot receiving has been really important because for whatever reason, that seems to be like the way that the schemes are working, right? Like there are tricks to the slot and, you know, use the center of the field a little bit more. Higher probability passes typically go to people who are running the routes that come from the slot alignment.
All right. And that's a perfect way to end this edition of the Game Preview Podcast presented by WynnBET. Betting is a team sport. Bet together at WynnBET. And I just want to say, enjoy your predictable weather. That's all I got to say. I mean, it's supposed to be 60 over here on Saturday, Cynthia. I mean, we're talking about some serious December heat.
Listen, I love that weird like week in December, January. That's like, you know, you're like, oh, and everyone in New York is like outside in shorts and flip flops. And everyone thinks it's like South Beach for the week. It's hilarious. It's my favorite. In Chicago, people were even crazier. When I lived in Chicago, it would be like 55 people like, I'm going to Lake Michigan. You're like, no.
Yeah. You're like, what are you doing here? In Syracuse, when it got north of 40, like after the winter, you would see shorts, tank top, flip flops. Like, what are we doing here? Like, I understand just a long sleeve t-shirt and, you know, a light hoodie is fine. You don't need to go extreme. But like I said, Central New York, Western New York, it's all about the extreme weather. Luckily, the Jets play the Bills at the end of the season, so we don't have to talk about that. Unlucky for me, who's going to have to be there. Again, that's how we end this episode. Cynthia, enjoy your cookie making, and we'll check in next week.
I'm going to start Googling some wetsuits for you.